You're listening to Talk Star Wars, a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth podcast network. Check us out on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Talk Star Wars is a production of Emotionally 14. For fantastic podcasts, video series, blog posts, and much more, visit us on the web at emotionally14.com and enjoy content for the permanently teenaged.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 190 of the Talk Star Wars podcast from Emotionally14.com. I'm your host, as always, Rob Wade, and I'm joined by the Chewie to my Han, Brad Harmer Barnes.
Hello, I'm a Brad to your Rob. How are you?
I'm good, mate. You feeling any better?
No, but I've turned up.
Good, better enough.
Yeah,
Sufficiently.
No, I'm just bloody minded, I think, to be honest.
I mean, that's fair. I appreciate it because 2 weeks in a row with it, having to go. I don't mind doing the solo shows, but I'd rather avoid them if I can. I just think two-man shows are better.
Well, that's what I do too. Yeah.
What's it called? I will say on the subject of solo shows, this week's Nerd Room, I just listened to it today, is Tim by himself, and you wouldn't even, he doesn't miss a beat. That guy is, man, he's so slick and impossibly handsome. I realise that second one's not relevant in the slightest, but it still just irks me. He's just, it's just impossible. How is one man so handsome?
I'm not sure I know what he looks like, so I'm just seeing a picture of him as the hottest man I can think of.
He's like...
Oh, that is hot.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And then you'll see a picture and you'll be like, wow, it's so much better than I imagined. Yeah. How's your Star Wars week been?
It's my Star Wars week. I've been watching a bit of Clone Wars.
Nice.
I've been working behind the scenes on Fire When Ready stuff, so I get some Rebel Commandos, and some battle droids set up and ready. And all the usual back-end stuff of video editing, and we're looking at doing an Armada campaign after Christmas.
Ooh, Rebellion in the Rim.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do you want, there is a space if you want on.
I don't know if I can commit to a campaign, but I will have a look and let you know.
We'll talk a bit more off air, but we'll be taking our time with it. If you want to do it, we'll make space and time for it over however long it takes.
I will see what I can do. As we've discussed behind the scenes, I have a few ideas for bits and pieces that might keep me pretty busy. But
awesome.
If I have some bandwidth, then why not? Since we last recorded, I feel like I've played two Star Wars games, in fact.
No, did you really?
Three Star Wars games. So I played with Fire When Ready and E14 favourite Dave Mustill.
Yes, you played the Down ATST one, which is coming out.
Oh, 4. I forgot about that. That wasn't the one of the ones I remembered.
Okay,
so I played the Down ATST.
The Down ATST one, which,
Star Wars Legion.
If everything falls into place, should go live on E14 the same week this episode drops.
Oh, marvellous. Okay, well, listeners can look forward to youtube.com/emotionally14 sometime in the next week, and let's say a week and a half to give you some space.
No, I'm fairly sure it'll be. I'm building a little schedule in my head.
This week.
Yeah, I've committed now.
Nice. So, so that's 4 then. So, 1 is Star Wars Legion. So I played the Downed ATST, the second half of the campaign with yourself, Dave, and
avoiding
Ian.
Spoilers, but no, man, it was a fun game.
Oh, that was a blast. Yeah.
Any game that starts off with Emperor Palpatine firing Force Lightning at a T-47 airspeeder.
I hate that thing. We can spoil the teams, right?
Yeah, that's fine. At one point, the Royal Guard just sod off and leave Palpatine on his own.
Yeah, just to his own devices,
he just starts screaming Fenton after them.
I meant the teams as in the people involved. So
that's fine.
I think for the first time, certainly the first time in a while, maybe even the first time ever, I teamed with Ian on an episode. Yeah, and it's as much fun as you can imagine.
Yeah, totally.
It was a delightful time. So that's number 1. So number 2, I played a game of Outer Rim with Dave because we went to
Dave.
We went to a board game thing. Basically, we played all day. We got there sort of just after lunch and played till just before 10.
I think I can play Outer Rim all day.
Yeah, it was pretty good. We played so the non-Star Wars ones. We played a game called Wingspan, which Dave is mad on, and I've
heard good things.
Enjoyed far more than I thought I would, because it doesn't sound like a entertaining premise.
The theme sounds baffling. Awful.
Yeah,
but everyone who comes out of it says they liked it.
Yeah, it's a really nice system. We played a massive 7-player game of Scythe with all the expansions, which was. It was mad. It was so much. Again, really fun. But obviously, Outer Rim takes it because Star Wars. Mm-hmm. I was playing as Jyn Erso.
Nice.
I turned her into a bounty hunter. Not necessarily.
She's one of the more versatile characters in the game. You can take her in a few directions.
I didn't necessarily do it because I thought it was like, I'll play a bounty hunter. That'd be fun. It just kind of, the game just went that way where that was the best way for me to make money and fame. I had to hand in Maz Kanata, which felt a little bit wrong. But, the game was, I did win, which was unusual. Yeah. And in fact, when I put a little picture of it on Instagram and I hashtagged it, Rob winning is built on hope. But I did win. And it was one of those great games where there were 3 of us playing, me, Dave, and his friend Steve, who's a lovely guy as well. And both Dave and Steve were one turn from winning. So
it's usually quite close.
Had I failed,
such a great game.
Had I failed to make the Kessel Run,
in
a way that because not only did I have to make the Kessel Run through the Maelstrom, I also had to make it in a way that gave me an extra turn on the other side. Had I finished with just normally finished the turn and it just said you get through safely, I would have lost.
Amazing.
That was the difference. So I managed to get my second turn. Get onto the planet and hand in my bounty. That's all the fame I need. Thank you very much. And that was it. It was a fantastic game. And then I played some Star Wars Jedi Outcast on the Switch. So Jedi Knight 2.
Okay, yeah.
So that's been re-released for, I think, PS4 as well and Switch.
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah. It ports very well, but I've forgotten that first-person shooters, twin sticks, are quite awkward on Switch. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just because I haven't played a first person on a console in a while. I may need to just tweak the settings or something as well. And then I played the big one, obviously, that is newly released, Fallen Order. So I've sunk quite a few hours into it. Not necessarily, that makes it sound like I've spent nothing but time doing that. And unfortunately, that's not the case because, there are other things to do often. But it's a very good game. It plays like kind of Uncharted in that sense of scale and verticality. So when you're running around there, you can tell they're you can get a real sense of where you can jump and where you won't be able to go, what's going to kill you and what's not. It's got some, I don't want to call it Dark Souls-y combat, but it is kind of very much parry, and it's going to be you're going to be easier if you can almost kind of block and time your attacks and things like that.
It's a bit like The Witcher, maybe.
Yeah, that level of and with a similar results for me because I'm crap at that stuff. I may need to, just for the purposes of getting through the story, I may need to drop the difficulty and I think it's okay because I do plan to play this again. Okay. And it's not often I say that about a game up front.
It's also just okay to drop the difficulty.
That is also fine. Yeah. But I mean, I'm one of those people who enjoys the challenge, but there is a point where it's like, okay, I'm making no progress now. This isn't fun.
I'm not enjoying this. I've paid my money and I'm not enjoying this.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like we've joked about it when I play HeroClix sometimes. There are games where I didn't win, but that was so much fun. And there is the occasional game where it's like, this is going so wrong. I am not enjoying myself.
The worst thing, and I think it's mostly a tabletop thing, is when someone's in that mood and the other person is just winning relentlessly. Yeah. That's not fun at that side of the table either.
No, because they don't enjoy the fact that it's like... I've seen it
making my friend miserable from no fault of my own.
I've seen it in casinos as well, because croupiers and that, they don't want people to be unhappy. And if you're having just a rotten run of luck... You can see it in their face. They just feel so bad for you.
They want you to win. They want you to walk away with some money.
Yeah, exactly. They want you to walk away with some money. They want you to have a good time. And because if you walk away with some money, you're more likely to chuck them a fiver to say thanks for their time,
Yeah, totally.
In a similar way, like Fallen Order has got to the point where it's like, okay, maybe I'm to the point where the challenge is just too much at this stage because I'm not actually that great a player anyway. So, you know, I dabble in a fair bit of gaming. It's one of my favourite hobbies, but I've never been fantastic at it. And this game is kind of making that quite apparent for me.
Okay.
And similarly, it's got the whole Dark Souls-esque, if you rest at certain points, the enemies will respawn. It's got that element to it.
Okay, lovely.
Which is fine, you know, because I've got relatively good at blocking blaster bolts with my lightsaber. But in terms of attacking the enemies with things like vibro staffs and like other lightsabers, it's a bit trickier to get the timing right. But like I say, very strong game. So far, I'm enjoying it very much.
What platform are you playing it on?
Xbox One.
Okay.
I'm system agnostic because I have all of them. But
that's why I was interested.
Yeah, this particular one, there was a deal on a digital copy of the Xbox One, so I went for it.
Cool.
And then otherwise, I've been playing the ever enjoyable game of dodging Mandalorian spoilers and failing miserably. It's impossible.
I've not had anything major spoiled for me.
I had the reveal, obviously the big one reveal. That's like, the one that I'm not going to do it because, you know, I want to set a better example. But that one is everywhere, and I wouldn't mind if people were using the hashtag The Mandalorian because that one. Because I've muted that hashtag. So I have this is the thing. I have the tools. Twitter gives you the tools to mute hashtags and words, so you can block stuff if you don't want to see it. Right? That only works if people play ball. And everybody is just so, like, there's something about social media that just turns people into narcissists in, like, the oblivious sense. So it's like, I've seen it. It doesn't matter if it's a spoiler anymore because I have seen it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
people kind of drop the spoilers because they don't care anymore because it doesn't matter to them. They're okay. They're all set. They've got theirs. And for us who have to, you know, if we wanted to do it the legit way, which I'm still resolved to not watch it, like, I'm not going to go down the route of, you know, sailing the high seas of internet piracy because...
I'm not averse to doing that. I just have enough time doing other stuff.
Well, there's that too, yeah. I mean, I've got barely enough time to watch the stuff I own.
I would have to go out. If I was to go down the road, I'd have to go out of my way. And half the reason I like these streaming services is I don't have to go out of my way for stuff.
Yeah, totally, exactly. You know, and I'm finding myself, I don't have time to watch the stuff I have to own. I own... I have I have digital movies I can watch. I have access to Netflix, Amazon, other streaming services are available. I don't have them, but that's beside the point. But, you know, I don't want to go down the route of adding another one to the mix and adding all that additional faff for something I can just wait for. The problem is that I know I'm going to get all the story points because people, like I say, are oblivious and narcissistic. They get the spoiler and they're like, okay, never mind, I can share it with the world now. And that particular image is just everywhere. It's in memes now. It's been like a week. And it's meme-worthy. And, I mean, they're hilarious. But at the same time, it still irks me a bit that people can't just be a little bit more sensitive to the rest of the world. That it was, you know, I'm not going to be, for example, I think we get The Rise of Skywalker the day before.
Maybe,
I'm not going to be jumping on and going, oh, well, now that I've seen that, I don't have to worry about telling you X, Y, and Z. So I wouldn't do that to people. You know, it's not the way I know some people don't care about spoilers, but a lot of people do. And it's easier to just not do them. And then it doesn't bother the people who don't care about them because they don't care about them. And the people who do care about them don't get their experience ruined. You know? I'm not going to be doing dodgy screen grabs and stuff on release day.
We're talking about the same one as we've established. It hasn't bothered me so much because what I've been exposed to hasn't actually told me anything about the story.
Yeah, I mean, now, the thing is, all bets are off for me now. Now that I know enough about the basics, I'm quite happy to listen to spoiler casts, like I've listened to Tumbling Saber and I've listened to Nerd Room. And they've done, you know, they don't go into huge everything depth. And also, to be fair, most of the stuff they talk about just kind of washes over me and I just, you know, it doesn't stick in my memory. So I'm sure by the time I get to watching it, there'll be large amounts of stuff I will have forgotten, in which case I can still get a kind of relatively fresh experience. But it's just these big plot points, like, they just seem like they should be a bit more sacred to these things. And I lay the blame at the feet of social media, not necessarily the users, because all they're doing is using the tool that's always been there for them to talk to their internet friends. in the same way they always have. It's just, I wish, like, Twitter was a bit more, what's the word? I wish there was a bit more flexibility on how I could kind of just blanket hide everything without losing access to the people I like. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know, rant over, but, you know, it's just one of those things. It's kind of irked me as I've watched the Disney Plus thing kind of kick into life. And I'm pleased it's doing well because it's clearly very popular. And I'm pleased, and obviously it's very kind of the Americans and the Canadians to stress test it for us, but ahead of the March release. But like I say, that's one of those things that's just irks me. Is it's kind of shown that people are a little bit oblivious to the sensitivities of others around the globe, except for, and I'll give particular kind of kudos to our Commonwealth and E14 endorsed friends, the Nerd Room and Something Saber, because they have been very careful to say, like, we're thinking of our UK listeners. We're not going to we're going to time code our spoilers and all that stuff. And that's great. And that's all I ask is, but Twitter is the Wild West for stuff like that. It's just, you know, it's tricky to avoid. And, you know, I have a tricky relationship with spoilers at the moment because obviously, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, I've been on some of the Reddit subreddits and seen stuff I probably would have made for a more interesting reveal if I'd watched it live in the cinema, but, you know, such is life.
Oh, well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't do anything about it now. I've accidentally seen stuff and then I've gone out of my way to deliberately see more stuff. So,
yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, I've kind of made a rod for my own back there, in a way.
Is this episode 9 stuff you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep looking at spoilers. This is not me being a force for positivity, because I keep looking at episode 9 spoilers going, this can't possibly be as balls as I'm expecting it to be.
I know what you mean. There's things of like, I'm really hoping there's a twist on this that doesn't make it just... Because there are some things that sound lame.
Yeah.
Just lame. Like, not even offensively bad, just a bit rubbish, and not in the kind of way where you can almost excuse it like the holiday special. Yeah. Although, actually, no, you know what? Actually, I spoke out of turn there. I shouldn't have. I apologise.
No,
there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for Grandad watching video porn in the middle of Christmas dinner.
Just imagine your granddad doing that.
Man, that's a weird.
Just imagine you're at the Christmas dinner table and your sister leans over to you and goes, "Is he?
Is that Babe Station?" Is what?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the level, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like Babe Station level. It's nothing, you know, there's not so much anything sort of explicit.
It's nothing just, with a hub in the URL, for sure.
Well, quite, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or certain types of tube.
Yes, or hamsters. Yeah.
Indeed, yeah, exactly. None of that.
No, it's definitely
a Babe Station kind of...
It's definitely a family-friendly exploitation channel, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. It's like...
what planet are we on now?
I don't know.
What's happening? But at the same time, Babe Station's one of those bizarre relics of the 90s that is quite hard to explain to people.
It is, yeah. It's like those... So this will kind of resonate probably with our UK listeners more than anybody else, but I'm sure all countries have got a version of this. It's like those television-based dating things. You know, the ones where it's like singles trying to chat using a TV? Yeah. It's really peculiar.
It was like this prototype of the internet almost.
Yeah, but it happened. I feel like it happened in the last 10 years, which is even more baffling. It's really weird. Anyway, enough about Babe Station, because, you know, we get any more and we have to pay them. It's a weird marketing arrangement.
Yeah, they've got a good deal. You know?
I think it's a really good deal. I don't know how we managed to negotiate our way into that. But anyway, we begin our episode in terms of input from our wonderful listeners around the world. As we often do, with our message from the wonderful Knight of the Commonwealth, Vesuvi.
Woo!
And Vesuvi writes, "Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Brad."
You're welcome, Vesuvi.
She also sent an additional message, which I didn't include here, wishing you a speedy recovery.
Okay.
So, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Talking Tauntauns. No mention of Wikipedia if the species lays eggs or has live births. I'd wager on mammalian style.
You've let me down, Leland. We have several jobs, but they all come under the umbrella of this one job.
Yeah, indeed. Since you were curious, I've attached a reference image to help you with your onion categorization. Apparently white and yellow onions are different, but only to an expert eye and perhaps palate.
I have no memory of this conversation.
We were talking about a recipe.
Oh, the recipe. You mentioned yellow onions. Yes.
And I was sitting there thinking, what? I've never heard of such things.
Yes.
Vesuvi concludes, Roger, Roger, Vesuvi, Knight of the Commonwealth. So
Do I have to?
I don't think it's a directive.
Oh, okay. Right.
I suspect it's a quote, but I don't know for sure. So there's 5 on this picture.
Yes.
And to me, sweet onions and yellow onions look the same, except slightly different size. That's it. I'm not going to go into huge amounts of depth about this.
Star Wars podcast.
I know. Well, we just did about 20 minutes on games. What do you want from me? This happens, all right?
Breaking down different types of onion.
I'm not going to go through it in detail. I'm just saying the sweet onion and the yellow onion, to me, look very much identical.
Yes. Yeah.
Except one's bigger than the other.
Well, this is, so a white onion, I thought what I was buying was white onions, but this looks very white. So maybe I have been buying yellow onions the whole time.
I think that's my kind of takeaway from this as well, is that the yellow onions is the ones. The white onions is the kind of thing I can imagine getting in takeaways.
Yeah, they look like they fry up for hot dogs.
Yellow onions
and stuff.
This looks more like
onions,
a home cooking stuff.
Yeah, it is a subtitled best all-round cooking onion.
Is that competition still going?
I can only assume so. I assume so. It must run every year between these 5 competitors.
And the nominees for best all-round cooking onion are sweet onion.
I just misread a part.
Red onion.
Where it says sweet onion is best for frying, I misread as best for flirting, and my brain cracked. My brain just went, what? What does that mean? Oh, it's literally not what it says.
Hey, baby.
I tend to buy red onions more than anything just because my supermarket does a pack of 3 red onions.
Yeah, fair.
And they're pretty versatile.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Shallots, I only ever tend to see pickled, to be honest.
Yeah, they're quite a common one to pickle. In fact, actually, I think white onions might be pickled as well quite commonly.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And also silver skins. We have silver skins, and they tend to be, because they're slightly smaller.
I don't know if this is a global thing, pickling onions. I don't know if that's quite a British thing.
Maybe. So for those who've never heard of it, you put it in vinegar. Done.
Yeah.
That's literally the steps.
About 6 weeks minimum.
Yeah, my grandma used to be fond of pickling onions, and it would be a Christmas thing. It would be part of the sort of Christmas meal thing. She'd bring kind of a batch of them along to Christmas dinner, and it was fantastic.
I've got a feeling, this is one of those, when your back of your brain kind of half remembers something, I've got a feeling it's quite a Jewish thing to do as well.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
I might be wrong. For any Jewish people listening who are grossly offended that I've suggested that maybe they might once have pickled something, please do email in, because I live for emails like that.
If you have pickling experience, please write in to podcast@emotionally14.com with the subject Talk Star Wars, pickle-specific anecdote. That'd be wonderful. Thank you very much. So Vesuvi has also been kind enough to grace us with not 4 roundups. Right? So
she's doing Mandalorian roundups as well now. Ah, you cannot stop this girl.
No, she just is so good.
It's crazy vegan.
Yeah. So we'll start with the Resistance roundups.
Cool.
So From Beneath begins as Torah is piloting a small craft through that's easy for me to say, through a gnarly storm carrying Kaz, Flix, Orca, and CB-23 to Dragor 3, the homeworld of the Gozo species. They're hoping to acquire some fuel from the refinery that Flix's cousins work at. Is this one of those things like my uncle works at Nintendo? He's going to find out that actually there's nobody there by that name. Yeah. After a bumpy landing, our team encounters Flanks, Fleck, Flob, and Fleas. Uncle Fluge had retired, thus ruining the alliteration. They scoff at Flix's presence. Why? He'd fit in perfectly. He apparently was pretentious years before when he left to become a cantina singer. He pronounced it Fleece. After some familial chiding, they discuss the topic of fuel. Flanks declares they're drilling deeper than ever to tap new deposits. Flix is mortified by this revelation, as it runs contrary to old Gozo legend, warning of deep drilling, which supposedly would wake Carnex dragons. Flanks was under the impression that such beasts were only mythical, if you know what I mean. That should be enough to wet your whistle and or whet your appetite. I mean, it's an interesting episode synopsis.
The more I hear about Resistance, the less interest I become in it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like it's not so much that I'm sure it's entertaining, but it doesn't. Yeah. The synopses are very peculiar. They don't necessarily feel
much of Resistance feels like C-list sword and sorcery fantasy, where they just make up new stuff.
Yeah,
with good fantasy, there's a sense for it. This world is planned out, and it does all make sense, and it is kind of plotted out. We know what's happening, and then there's the C-list of stuff where they obviously write themselves into a corner and then just make up another monster.
Yeah.
Or another race that can turn up and help them. And Resistance is starting to feel a little bit, with the caveat that I haven't actually seen an episode yet. And
it's purely going based on the descriptions and the
descriptions. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll give it a go when Disney Plus turns up, but at the moment I'm not convinced it's for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
I don't believe I was ever the target audience for it anyway.
Well, quite, but there is that too. But yeah, it's a very peculiar synopsis. It doesn't read like it's an inherently Star Wars thing. It reads like it could be any kids' TV show.
Any of those names don't sound like Star Wars names. They sound like Doctor Who or
All right, so
Wax or
second one,
whatever. Yeah,
is quite a bit different. So
okay. Well, I'll strap myself in.
In the Relic Raiders, Doza sends for Kaz, Tora, and Freya as the Colossus approaches a trade outpost on Ashas Ree.
No, it's doing it again.
The seasoned executive tasked the trio from Ace Squadron to handle this urgent supply run. In one of the landing bays, the children from Tahar, Kel and Ayla, approach Kaz to ask if they may accompany the others to the forested planet as they've been cooped up in engineering for so long. Kaz is reticent, but recognizing they probably need some fresh air, agrees if the two promise not to be seen by Tora or Freya. When the three ships alight at the settlement, the place looks abandoned, replete with cryptic messages of warning inscribed on walls. Not ones to scare easily, and understanding how gravely the supplies are needed, they start to explore. As Kaz looks back to see if the kids are behaving, he notices they're following some exotic butterflies to ancient edifice. Kaz runs after them and warns them to be careful, but no sooner than they explain how the place appears to be a temple of the Force, similar to the one on their homeworld, they hear a voice calling out in distress. The cry appears to be emanating from a dark-stoned, pyramid-shaped erection, which seems to... Oh my.
You did that on purpose, Vesuvi.
Oh my. Which seems discordant to the rest of the structure en masse. Ignoring Kaz, the well-meaning younglings dart off to offer assistance to the mysterious voice, and that's all you get for now. See, that felt a little bit more
that
like
feels a little more Star Warsy. Yeah, maybe everyone's just a filler episode.
Could be, yeah. I mean, ultimately, not every no series. I can't think of a single series that ever has 100% hits all the time. There are a couple of episodes sometimes where they're forgettable at the very least, even if they're not bad.
I think it's just Michelin Web Look, to be honest.
Well, they wrote those in, though. That's their own fault.
Well, it's for guys who write the hits I feel sorry for.
Yeah, absolutely. So Vesuvius titled this The Mandalorian Morsel, which is wonderfully alliterative and kind of keeps its own.
Bloody cookbook, aren't we?
After only a few hours of sleep, my body made me wake up and try to sign on to Disney Plus to stream episode 1 of The Mandalorian. At first, nothing worked. I'd just get a spinning circle as if the site was thinking. I kept trying different titles. Eventually, Lady and the Tramp, the 2019 release, started playing beautifully. Yeah, I didn't realise... I knew they'd redone it. I didn't realise it was out.
No, I didn't know they'd redone it.
No.
Does it need remaking?
I feel like they told everything they wanted to do with the original, didn't they?
I mean, how differently can they do it?
Well, quite so.
It's two dogs.
Yeah. Well, I think they've done
animated dogs.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. This is indeed the premise. No, this is the good elevator pitch. Like, I'm surprised you've never worked for Disney PR. Like, it's dogs.
I'm not allowed to for at least 4 separate reasons.
Yeah. I just want to hear your pitches of like some of these movies.
Lady and a Tramp. I mean, I don't know what you could do different with it apart from actually do it as a real lady and a real tramp.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, I think what's happening is they've had really good success with the Jungle Book remake, the Favreau one. And I think they're just doing the live-action CG over-the-top thing on everything.
Oh, is it like that? It's not they're going to do an incredible journey and use real dogs?
No, nothing like that. No.
So that will at least be creative.
This is true. And on the plus side, it's not as weird as the CG live-action over the top of live-action Lion King.
I've seen very brief glimpses.
It did very well, but apparently it's not amazing.
I've seen only brief glimpses of it, and it looks fine from what I've seen of it in kind of an Island of Dr. Moreau type way.
Yeah. Anyway, so Vesuvi continues.
The original book, kids, it's fine.
Yeah. So I paused that and tried The Mandalorian again. Still no luck.
Right. We had to go back and watch Lady and the Tramp again.
I felt like my fan card would be revoked if the first thing I watched wasn't Star Wars. So I kept poking around and finally got Lego Star Wars All-Stars to work. I watched the first 2 episodes of that, trying The Mandalorian again in between. Still no luck.
Brilliant.
I watched more things. The first episode of The World According to Jeff Goldblum.
I love that we live in a world where that's a thing.
Yeah. Then in episode 1 of the Imagineering story, I've heard really good things about that.
Do you have a job?
I'm sure she does. Well, she said it was like a midnight kind of...
okay, yeah.
It's a midnight desire to wake up and stream.
Yes.
Which was actually a good reminder that not everything Disney attempts is successful at first, but the makers really care and they eventually get the machine to run smoothly. So the Imagineering story is about Disney parks and how they built them up, how they started them off, and how they built them up. And apparently it's fantastic. I've heard nothing but good things about it so far. Finally, about 2 p.m., The Mandalorian started working on my ancient laptop, piped to my TV.
That was nice of him.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's very Western-inspired, lots of atmosphere establishing, and yes, there was a fun surprise at the end. I'm not in the market to spoil anything for anyone, so I hope you all get to view it soon. Thank you, Vesuvi. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
So, she goes on to say...
There's a fun surprise at the end. I'm not going to spoil anything, but have you seen The Crying Game?
Yeah, more like Mandaloriana, am I right? Episode 2. So, she continues. I watched Chapter 2 this morning. I loved it. It picks up on Arvala 7. Our Beskar-marked protagonist is escorting his bounty through some of the muddy crevasses which differentiate this world, when they're ambushed by 2 shady characters who we might have seen in the background of a cantina shot in the preceding episode. I'm thrilled to reveal we get to see a weapon used that we've only ever heard referenced, first mentioned in The Empire Strikes Back, if memory serves.
Oh, amazing.
What?
We're going to get to see T-47s having properly conditioned to the cold.
That must be it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Mandalorian and Bounty finally make it back to the Razor Crest, which has been picked clean by some familiar scavengers, confirming they're probably all over the galaxy, prompting him to try to retrieve the stolen electronics and hull plating simply to make the ship functional again.
Minox?
No, the ones who have their own wheels in the original trilogy.
I got you.
Yeah. Jason is Warriors. Come on, man.
Okay, yeah, of course.
What follows is yet another fun action piece, ending with a Yoki treat. I'm not really sure about that one. But I really shouldn't tell you much more if I'm to keep this summary relatively spoiler-free. Yeah. Well, you've succeeded, Vesuvi, because I've heard spoiler reviews, and I still have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. Not going to tell you much more, but put it this way. Have you seen the Serbian film?
Oh, Lord. So, Vesuvi, thank you very much for those. They are suitably obscure, as you are wont to do, is your gift.
Yes.
Please do keep them to that level of spoilery town, because even though I am all bets are off, I appreciate that not all our listeners are, and I don't want to put them in that position. So, and also it's more
spoiler free. I now know less than I did before she started talking.
Plus, also it's more work for me to do spoiler sections, and I'd rather not.
I've got other things to worry about.
Exactly, I've got things to do.
Yeah.
So our next message comes from Andrew.
Hello, Andrew.
And Andrew writes, "Hi, chaps. Hope all is well, and congrats, Rob, on being newlywed. All the best for the future." Thank you very much. That's very kind. A quick one from me, and apologies again in advance. The talk of Star Wars recipes last episode got me thinking, which Star Wars character names could we transform into the title of a dish or foodstuff? I've come up with some suggestions. Have you got any more to add?
Okay.
Some of these are tenuous. I warn you in advance.
I'll strap myself in.
Strap in.
Yep. Okay.
Grand Pop Tartkin.
we went off on a tear about a year ago about something Pop-Tart related, and now I can't remember what it was.
I don't remember either, no. If listeners remember what we talked about with regards to Pop-Tarts, because I do remember that. There was a tirade attached.
I know that the next day I went out and bought some Pop-Tarts, so it must have had an impact on me, but obviously not a significantly...
Subliminal advertising of the Kellogg's variety. Other cereals are available. I don't even think they make Pop-Tarts. I don't know where that came from.
No.
Jam Jar Jar Binks.
Why don't you just cut the middleman and have Jam Binks? I mean, that makes him sound like a DJ.
Yeah, there is that. Admiral Snack Bar.
I like that.
Yeah, that's good. That's my favourite.
If it isn't a snack bar somewhere in the world named Admiral Snack Bar, we're missing the trick.
Absolutely. Potato Wedge Antilles.
That's not fair. He's lost loads of weight.
Jack pulled Porkins.
He hasn't.
Sesame Snap Wexley. Wow, that is a deep cut.
That is good.
That is fantastic.
I like it. Yes.
Darth Molasses. I'm assuming that's what he was going for.
I hope so.
Obi Szechuan Kenobi.
Not bad.
That's great.
Not bad. If that isn't a source in one of the Disney parks.
Yeah, indeed. And, but let's not give the Rick and Morty people ideas. Let's do that.
Right.
They
I find,
maybe we should give them ideas. I don't know.
Yeah.
Boba Fetta. Pretty good.
I saw that coming.
It's a relatively
low-hanging cheese.
Yeah, straightforward.
Yeah.
IG After 88. That's brilliant.
That wins you back. That's brilliant.
Love it. Princess Leia Cake.
Oh, we're back on low-hanging fruit.
Mango Fett.
Okay, yeah.
Grand Admiral Prawn.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I like that one. I've got...
mostly because immediately my brain didn't go to Thrawn and I just pictured Admiral Prawn.
I've got a drink one, which is Allegiant General London Pride.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. I did have one before we started, and I thought it was really good. Salacious Crumbs, obviously, is a bit of a... Again, it's low-hanging, but sometimes that's all you need. Man, what was it?
A semi-related one said if I was going to keep chickens, I was going to have Kylo Hen and the Bantam Menace.
That's good. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
It's just sorry. It wasn't just that it was good because it was pretty funny. Yeah. But I just looked up and you had the straightest deadpan face I've ever seen you make.
Our screen grab pays off again.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm going to keep trying to think of these, and if I come up with some more,
we'll jump back in and out as we see fit.
Anyway, Andrew has a little more.
Okay, cool.
Also, I'm interested. So we kind of touched on this already, but also I'm interested.
Tail soup.
Yeah, that's good. I'm interested to know how you're going to approach The Mandalorian after the frustrating news. It will be the end of March till we get it in the UK. Going to try and avoid spoilers. That would have been my preference, but I've struggled already, having come across stuff online. Doesn't feel possible to avoid it, but I hope it won't affect enjoyment when I finally see it in full.
I don't feel like what I've seen so far will impact my enjoyment. I've seen photos and I've seen, but there's no real context. It's not the same as seeing it for real.
No.
I don't know how the rest of it's in play out. We've only seen, even if it did spoil something, it's the first 2 episodes out of 10. It's not. 8, sorry, but even so, it's not giving major twists away or anything.
No, exactly. This is true.
I'm not concerned at present.
Yeah. One thing I will say on the subject is that particular item that we talked about, the one we've identified, obviously, through body language, that we are talking about the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard a lot of people say, oh, that's going to find its way into episode 9. And here's why I don't think that's true. Nobody in the UK will know what they're talking about.
Also, episode 9 finished filming before Mandalorian started.
That's true, but then obviously you'd hope that the story group would tie these. If they've got threads like that to weave in, they'd have done them by then. I
mean, you'd hope so, but they've consistently proved they haven't since 2014.
Because they have given us every reason to believe that's not how they operate. Yeah, this is true. Anyway, all the best and keep cracking out the great content, Andy. Well,
I
Andy.
promise you, I'll always keep cracking one out.
Oh my! Andy, thank you very much for that. And like I say, excellent work on the food stuff puns. There's some absolute crackers in there, if you'll pardon the expression.
Absolutely.
I'm going to keep thinking. So if I come up with something to add into the mix, then I will be sure to do so.
Just jump back in. Don't even give context. I mean, just carry on with the rest of the podcast.
Admiral Radish. There you go.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, as to the Mandalorian thing, I'm still gonna not watch it because, like I say, the reasons we talked about, the piracy thing, I'm not a big fan of faff. I try and keep myself faff free in my life. Try and have a low faff diet, all that stuff. It just seems to me like that would add faff, and I don't want to do that.
Captain Panaka cake.
Hey, that's good. Yeah, yeah.
He's one of the guys who went from Star Wars to Casualty Kids.
Yeah, this is true. There are quite a few of them, actually.
Yeah, coming the other way around as well.
Hugh Quashie, right?
Yeah. And Dennis Lawson went to the opposite.
Guy Henry went the other way.
Guy Henry went the other way, and Adrian Edmondson went the other way. Yes,
that's true, yeah. So next we have Weibel's Wanderings.
Hey, I love these.
Yeah, so there is still time to weigh in on people. If people have a preference on, if they have an idea for a better name or...
Bib Fortuna cookie.
Very good. I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jabba the Pizza Hut is, if you've seen Spaceballs, it's not very good.
Yeah, it's
Suspicious the Pizza Hut.
Dom DeLuise. Yeah, there we go. Oh, man, Dom DeLuise.
Why is it 2 for 1?
He was so good and everything.
Oh, Dom DeLuise is fantastic. And he looks a bit like my dad at that time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, my dad was...
Your dad went through a phase of smearing his face in pizza, didn't he?
There was that. Well, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Largely explained the resemblance to Dom DeLuise in many ways.
Yeah.
If you've seen Spaceballs, Jabba the Pizza Hut, but like I say, Suspicious the Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
Why is it 2 for 1?
Yeah.
What are they trying to pull?
How can they cut a discount like that? How can it be 15 quid for a pizza, but 2 and some fries is 20?
How is it?
And they give you a bottle of Coke, not a big one,
what's special?
Not a small one.
What's special about Tuesdays?
Why do I have to collect it?
How do you know where I live?
How do I know it's a calzone and they didn't just drop it? Oh, he's gone. Okay.
Oh, that's good. I enjoyed that. So, Weibel's Wanderings.
Yes. Yeah.
Introducing to my mother to Attack on the Clones. Sorry, I'll start again. Introducing. Please. So, because I ended up saying introducing to mother. It's like, what? I'll start again.
Right, game face on. Yeah.
Introducing my mother to Attack of the Clones. And when Anakin and Obi-Wan break off their debate just as the creatures are about to kill Padme, it made me think about Chirrut saying, "The Force moves darkly around someone about to kill," and I wondered if they suddenly noticed the creatures because the Force moved darkly.
I mean, that's a deep pull.
I think it's possibly a really good pull. I think I've always got the impression that we've always kind of, even, across existing canon, legends, new canon, there's always been this sense that obviously the Jedi can predict, they can predict things before they happen. We know this.
Yeah.
Anakin can do it. That's why that's why he's the only human who can pod race, even though he's like 8. And he's got Kitster on his side, I suppose. So there's that. Yeah. But
I like that he has basically explained why the Force is basically like spider sense.
That's one of its facets, right? It's it's one of those things that they've always been able to. They've never had a problem explaining it away.
Because you see things before they happen.
Yeah, and even in the original trilogy, I feel like Luke's ability to
he's stretching out perception, isn't it?
Yeah, with the blast shield down, he's able to anticipate the blaster bolts,
make eddies in the Force.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the Force moves darkly. There you go. I had the K from darkly, and I jumped it. Q jumped. I can't have it.
That's my favourite Rolling Stones album.
The Force moves darkly around somebody about to kill is a nice explanation for why, people who are trying to shoot people, animals are trying to attack, kind of resonate for the Jedi as like, this is about to do me harm. Mm-hmm. So it makes a lot of sense.
Sausage Ventress.
Dave in Australia nailed my feelings about The Rise of Skywalker. I have a lot of hopes too. Mm-hmm. So Dave, we remember Dave's big list of hopes.
Yes, I do.
We echoed some of them, I think.
Yeah,
James did. Yeah, James did worry that we'd had a bad day. He did sort of message me privately to say, like, you guys all right? Because I think we went on a bit of a tear. It happens. Sometimes like...
Starfleet. Seriously, Bigs in Blankets.
Bigs in Blankets. There you go. I like it.
See?
Yeah.
I got this smashed.
Tinder Roses Tycho, anyone?
That's all. It's a decidedly British one, but I feel like Bigs in Blankets probably is as well.
Shark fin soup.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Poe Damson.
I remember when he was called Prince Devitt.
Yeah, Poe Damson.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. I'll try to get something for Holdo, but I can't find anything, so I guess we can just scrub her from canon. Totally over it.
The Holdo hors d'oeuvres?
That'll do, yeah.
It's when she just flings canapes at you.
Holdo the mayo? No, it doesn't work.
Yeah. No, I say the Holdo hors d'oeuvres is when she just whips canapes at you.
Yeah, just lobs on
and everybody just goes completely silent.
Yeah.
There's no sound because everybody's like, I can't believe she did that. But nobody wants to be the one to go, dude, what's that about?
Raisins.
Sure. I disagree about the idea that the world between worlds could be used as a plot device. Rebels set it up so that Palpatine couldn't travel there, hence his need for Ezra. Without Ezra, it doesn't make sense.
Okay, fine.
Fair? Yeah, I mean, that's perfectly fair.
If you want to make it harder for them to bring Palpatine to the film and smash the only one we did like, then you do that.
That suits me fine, to be honest.
Just smash the ships through it like we haven't got our own interdictors or anything.
Yeah, droids. Also, unless I'm delusional, hopefully not, or misremembering, par for the course, in Aftermath, the Mr. Bones program was described as a double-decker. Oh, wonderful. The Mr. Bones program was described as a combination of different programs which are needed to balance him out. One of those wasn't specifically called General Grievous, but the description strongly led me to believe that's who it was. I need to reread it.
Does mean rereading Aftermath.
There is that. So, James, you are a better man than us.
Yeah.
So, James, thank you, as always, for your wanderings. As I say, apologies if we edged too close to the dark. We stepped one foot in the dark side too far, but, sometimes...
Sometimes you got to kill some younglings.
Sometimes that you just feel like, you've only got so many seats on the school bus and you need to head off.
Yeah.
So,
Ahsoka Tango.
Oh, beautiful. So, our next message comes from Michael in Sydney, Australia.
Hello, Michael, Sydney.
And Michael writes, G'day, Rob and Brad.
G'day.
Quick question from me this week. Who would win in a fight?
Oh, I love these.
Bosk and Aura Singh.
Nice.
Teaming up against Ponda Baba and Sabine Wren.
Sure.
All the best, Michael from Sydney.
I love the best, Michael.
He is from Sydney.
Yeah.
Apparently. So, what you got?
I mean, Sabine's hard.
Yes.
Ponda Baba, not so much.
Not as much.
No, Bosk is debatably one of the toughest bounty hunters in the galaxy.
Yeah. Or a Singh.
Or a Singh, again, supposedly one of the toughest.
Yeah. Do you think so? You think Ponda Baba might be the one to bring the second team down?
Ponda Baba, I think he's definitely the Jeff Hardy in the equation.
Right.
Except he's going to turn up. He
turns up on multiple planets within a couple of weeks of each other. It's impressive.
Yeah.
I assume it's a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mean, he turns up in the ongoing in Dr. Aphra later on as well.
Oh, does he really? Okay.
Yeah, because reasons.
Yeah, so why not, right?
People seem to love Dr. Everson and Ponda Baba, despite the fact the whole point is they're supposed to be jobbers.
I've never really been that enamoured with them. Certainly, especially, I didn't like them at all in Rogue One. I thought it was one of those.
It was very jarring.
It was an overreach.
Jarring moment.
Yeah, it was an overreach for fan service for me.
Yeah, it doesn't jive with the rest of the film. It's a very strange moment.
Didn't ruin it for me by any stretch. It's not that big a deal, but it just kind of. I just found myself going, "No, that's too far."
Yeah, why are you doing that?
Yeah, it just seems rubbish.
Oh, we're all here on a coach trip.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't make an awful lot of sense. Yeah.
I'm inclined to think Bosk and Aura Singh.
I'm totally on the side of Bosk and Aura Singh. So Sabine's hard. She's not Boscora Singh hard.
No.
And Ponda Baba is not that hard.
No, certainly not in comparison. I mean, the answer to this question would be very easily established by whether or not Ponda Baba and Sabine Wren had ever fought Beckett.
Yes,
because obviously Bosk is somebody who's got some experience at Beckett, but in a sort of business capacity.
Yeah.
And then he killed Aura Singh.
Yeah.
So, you
we're
know.
told.
Well,
yeah.
the Fall killed her.
Yeah.
But he helped. There you go, Mike. So you didn't actually say which direction you fell in on that one, but
yeah.
You know, that's
maybe
our
didn't
thoughts.
know.
No, well, this is it. That's fair enough. You know, nobody's expected to know all the time. That's fair. And then our next message comes from Mogan Lars, probably one of the lesser-known Lars family members. And, I mean, there are certainly upsides to that if Episode 4 is anything to go by.
Padme Amma Masala.
Captain Paneer.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Captain Pancaker.
We're on to you, Naboo.
You are mostly foodstuffs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, the classic is Palpacino, and everybody loves Palpacino.
Yeah, absolutely. It's lead singer of Deftones, isn't
he? Yeah, yeah, that's the guy. So Mogan writes, "What is the deal with Boss Nass? They say his species is Gungan, but he doesn't look like one. Is he sort of like a third gender? Some sort of genetic defect?
I've got a feeling this is answered somewhere.
Or like a queen bee sort of situation." Yeah, I'm not sure. Also,
Brian Blessed with an ovipositor now.
Also, I use the term yellow onion and then white onion synonymously, but I might just be a racially inappropriate monster. Okay. Good to know. Thanks for that. So I definitely feel good about answering the question.
Comment.
Yeah, no, likewise. I mean, I feel like he's overthinking it, to be honest, at that point.
Possibly, but you don't know what people are like the other side of emails, do you?
No, it's true. I mean, any onions out there, write in. Let us know.
I've got a feeling that's answered somewhere, but why Boss Nass looks different.
Okay.
But he's just supposed to be kind of a bloated, possibly kind of Henry VIII type figure, isn't he?
Yeah.
Visually, I'm talking here before the fan fluff kicks in and fills all this out.
Is he full of fan fluff? That'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's like filling foam, that stuff, isn't it? No way. That is fantastic. So it's the second highest result. If you write, why does Boss... the second result is, why does Boss Nass look different? The first result is, why does Boss hate me? Amazing. So...
The third result is, why does Boss Nass hate me? Jar Jar Googles it a lot, apparently.
Indeed, yeah. So this is from... Wow. Stack Exchange. So Stack Exchange, if you're not familiar, is a really fantastic website. It's like Reddit, but it's basically just... There's so many message boards. So here's the answer. There are two major races on Naboo in terms of Gungans. There are the Ankura and the Atolla. So the Atolla are the lanky ones with the big floppy ears, and the Ankura are the more corpulent ones.
Right, okay.
Now, I can't think of an equivalent in humanity. The closest I've got is kind of ethnically descended but different, like different types of ethnic Jews, like Ashkenazi and things like that. Okay. I can't think of any other analogy that works like that.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, that's the answer, is that they are two different types of Gungan who both exist on Naboo. And this is from the Episode 1 Visual Dictionary. So
okay, cool.
It is.
So they thought of that pretty quickly.
Yeah, indeed. Which is fair, you know. That's the kind of thing I'd like for them to think about. Maybe not put in the film. Seems like a bit of a stretch, but
it would have. Yeah, that film doesn't need more footage.
Yeah, indeed. Did you? So we've read all the questions that have been sent to us this week. I had a really quick question for you. Did you see the 30-second international spot that did the rounds?
No.
The Rise of Skywalker one. It's worth a watch. It's 30 seconds of your life.
I'll have a quick gander now.
Yeah. It's got one particularly A couple of particularly cool shots.
TROS International.
Yep.
Eros International logo.
Just enjoy. While you're doing that, I'm just enjoying. There's a digital spy.
Rise of Skywalker End TV spot.
That might be it.
A bit more footage, not all new content.
No, there's a couple of little bits and pieces. Like you see. Is it the same one? Did you watch the one where Kylo sort of plants his feet as the Falcon? It says you see that it's the engines of the Falcon that's causing that. Because we've seen the shot from the other angle.
That's what we'd speculated. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd seen the shot from the other angle, and then you see Rey just like.
Jumping towards Finn. Yeah.
Jumping towards Finn, yeah. What's interesting is it reminds me of... Did you see the trailer for the Rock movie Skyscraper, which totally wasn't Die Hard, even though it was Die Hard?
Yes.
There was a shot in that where he jumped from a building to another building, and you could tell from the trailer, yeah, he's dead.
Yeah. It's the other guy's moment, yeah.
Yeah, and I think what was really funny was looking at the... The Rock was in quite a lot of banter about like, don't spoil it, like with people who were sort of pointing it out, like, yeah, he's dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. But it just reminded me of that because like she dives out and I'm just like, yeah, she's dead. Credits. And then the rest is like
a bold ending.
It would be, and I mean, it would like
an even bolder first act.
The rest is just like a coma dream. All the stuff we've seen that we can't account for otherwise. All the bits from the trailer and stuff.
Yeah, if it ends with just Shmi going, "Oh, I have the strangest dream."
Yeah, yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, I'm hoping they don't go down the Dallas route, but you never know, do you?
No.
So yeah, that's it from the listeners. Anything more to add, or we can do it? I mean, it can be a short one. It's not the end of the world.
No, it's been a relatively quiet week in Star Wars for me. Yourself?
Yeah, likewise. I mean, there's been bits and pieces. Like there was an article where Auntie Kath was asked about writing Star Wars movies, and it seemed a bit of an odd.
I get what she meant.
Yeah.
But I also understand why it puts a certain subsection of fandom's noses at a joint.
I mean, I can see why it would get their hackles up a little bit. It's I mean, you know, yeah. And then JJ had some comments about Ray that he mentioned to Rolling Stone. Yeah. So somebody asked. So there must have been I think it's from a larger interview. So Rolling Stone asked, one thing you hear from people is that the character of Rey feels preternaturally gifted, even for a Jedi, that she learns things faster than, say, Luke Skywalker ever did. And JJ goes, yeah, spooky, right? Smiles and says, it's a fair point. It's not an accident. So that suggests that there's, maybe there's some reveal coming in episode 9 that's going to make some explanation.
That's what I've always suspected. So,
I'm
surprised. I think even at the start, when episode 7 came out, you and I were in very different camps on that, but I haven't budged. I've always thought there's a narrative reason for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's still... I don't know, it's the tricky thing, ultimately, is it's always hard to know, even if people say, this has all been planned out from the start. It's hard to know how much of that's true. Yeah. And they're never going to turn around and say, you know what, we've been pulling it out of our backs as we go.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. It's the tricky thing, and ultimately I think people are, I mean, you see it in everything. People are going to kind of, to a point, people are going to believe what they want to believe about a situation.
Yeah.
If they want to believe that it's all kind of ham-fisted and not ham-fisted because, I've used that word, I think, quite reasonably about the lack of subtlety in the films.
Yeah.
But that's not the context in which I mean it here. If it's more kind of seat of the pants, fly-by-night narrative, if that's what the feeling is, then people are going to read something like that and go, yeah, of course they're going to say that because you're covering your tracks, because you have actually been just pulling it out as you go along and, you're kind of retroactively changing stuff. But realistically, I'm okay with a narrative reason for it. It's fine. It's I'm just not sure what that's going to be. And obviously, there are certain ways they could do it where I'd be like, well, that makes sense. And certain ways where I'd be like, well, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
And, my concern is that, if bits I've accidentally read are kind of to be believed, it's going to be a bit of both.
Yeah. Which is,
I can live with that as an average.
So much of it's going to come down to how it's done, because most of Star Wars is stupid when you just write down the bare facts of it. It's how it's handled.
I love bare facts. Shut up. Did you know, for example... No, I'm kidding. I don't have any bare facts to hand. I should have thought that through. No. Darn.
Yeah, he's a survivalist, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the guy, yeah. With that whole kind of winglet thing, one that I've often wondered is, it's fairly obvious that the idea of Luke and Leia being related didn't occur to George until he was writing Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, no, that seems fair.
Yeah. So who was Yoda referring to by the line "No, there is another"?
Originally, my understanding, so this is from the Secret History of Star Wars book I mentioned to you that's really good. My understanding is that originally George was planning to bring in another character you hadn't seen yet.
Okay.
And have Luke, it was like, I think originally Luke was going to fail. And this, there was going to be like a Deus Ex Machina that came in and kind of helped him, bring him back to his feet and save the day.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my understanding of it.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I'm really glad they made the change they did, because it does sound like it would just be very like, oh, well, that's helpful. I don't know anything about. It's like bringing Thrawn in episode 9. It's not like it's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, that's not really much help to the people who aren't immersed in the lore, and you can't rely on those people to make you $2.5 billion. You just can't.
Yeah.
Some of them will complain they have no money.
They
help. They give it a go and complain they have no money, but
I have a name.
Didn't mean you.
Oh, all right.
Not everything I say is a veiled attack. Some of it's blatant. So yeah, I mean, it's impossible to know unless people do like those kind of tell-all memoirs and things after the fact. It's impossible to know how much of this stuff is telegraphed and how much of it's pre-planned.
Yeah.
JJ's track record for ending stuff, mixed.
Yeah.
Let's say, because obviously a lot of people quite dislike Lost and the way that finished, even though it started really strong. And, you could draw the parallels.
I have a bad feeling about this.
I'll tell you one thing that is cool, though. A lot of people seem to really like Rian Johnson's new movie, Knives Out.
It looks fun from what I've seen. It does look fun.
It seems like a sort of, a mod. Like, it seems like somebody who was probably a Clue fan. Probably enjoyed that movie.
It's got that kind of vibe to it,
yeah, it's got that vibe. Whether or not it's going to be as good, obviously, it's hard. It's hard to top Clue, because Clue is a top-notch movie.
So much fun.
Yeah, but it's a good cast, so why not, right? I feel like, how did we get onto this subject? Because we weren't talking about Clue a minute ago. We're talking about JJ and the Ray stuff, and they've. Thing is, this is where I've kind of found myself skeptical about how much of it's telegraphed and how much of it's kind of fly by night. If they do a big, I mean, it is a retcon. We'll call it what it is. Either way, whether it's deliberately planned out or not, it's a retcon in episode 9, right? If they give one to Rey to explain why she is so powerful in the Force and so fast. It actually undoes one of the retcons they've done in episode 8. Because in episode 8, Snoke mentions that the Force the balance of the Force has shifted, the darkness has risen and the light to meet it, and that's the reason that they're given, or one of the explanations that's been given by people who talk about the film behind the scenes about why Rey has become so powerful, is because she's being kind of lifted by the Force in order to meet the challenge of dispatching Kylo Ren. So then they've retconned it in episode 8, and then they're going to potentially retcon it again in episode 9?
Well, possibly.
It seems like an odd. an odd mix?
They could work it so it both works. They could work it so it works from a certain point of view. They could also, just because a character says something doesn't mean that it's true. It's just what that character believes. You can easily dismiss it as that's what Snoke was led to believe.
That's true. Yeah, there is that.
As I've said countless times we show, your truth being dependent on your point of view is a recurring motif from Star Wars, and if they're going to play on that in the final episode, I've got no complaints about that. That's very in keeping with the saga.
Yeah. And then, that's,
Dr. Jaffa Cake.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I like that one a lot. I think we should end there, actually. I think that's a nice...
Okay,
that's like a mic drop moment, as it were, as close as we get on this show. Because obviously you're wearing yours. So it's a bit harder to drop it without face planting.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for listening.
There's a limit to a number of times I can do that in a recording.
That is fair.
Still
remember
talk competently. Yeah.
So thank you very much for listening this week to Talk Star Wars episode 190. So this is an Emotionally 14 production for emotionally14.com, clues in the name. And we are a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. I'll tell you more about those in a minute. But for now, I'm going to tell you about Talk Star Wars. So if you enjoy this show and if you want to subscribe, or if you already subscribed, maybe you want to just get it on another provider. There's loads of different ones. Maybe you've changed your phone. Maybe you just
want to all of them.
Yeah, you might want to listen to it at work. You might want to listen to it on the commute and all that stuff.
You might want to see it going on a different platform in every room of your house as you go about your day-to-day life. It gradually fades in and out of your consciousness.
You might want to go into one of those electronic shops. You might want to go into one of those electronic shops and just set it off playing on all the machines. Yeah. I'm not suggesting you do that, but you might want to, in which case you should probably find healthier ways to... Anyway, you can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube. We put the audio as a video on Emotionally 14's YouTube channel. It's available on Spreaker, and you can access that directly by going to talkstarwars.co.uk because the domain name has been paid up for some time. And it's on every Monday on emotionally14.com. If you can't wait till Monday, and also you want to avoid the, I would like to think, relatively unintrusive ads that populate the show, I think I do a pretty good job of keeping them out of the mix.
I feel like Ant and Dec are intrinsically intrusive.
I mean, that's fair, but I can't control their presence.
No, I understand there's only a certain amount of Ant and Dec wrangling you can get away with.
Yeah, and I've hit my quota for this year, unfortunately. But if you want to avoid the ads, like I say, I do my best to make them unintrusive. On the longer shows, you tend to get a mid-roll, but generally they're just at the beginning and end.
Yeah, we do what we can.
Yeah, then you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/talkstarwars. We have one tier with one reward, an ad-free version of the feed that drops on a Saturday.
We remove all of the Geordies.
Exactly. Not all, well, I don't know. Any Geordies, feel free to write in. But we remove those two specific Geordies from your feed. So if that sounds like your bag and you're happy with your, banking or mortgage or whatever it is they're doing these days, you can visit patreon.com/talkstarwars. Like I say, one tier starts at $1. So you can get the ad-free version of the feed 2 days early, and you can enjoy it much like Daniel Thorpe, Matt Salvatore, Neil Lowry.
They're all good people.
They're all great people. All of our patrons are great people. I wish I had the list to hand, but I don't have the list to hand. But those are just some of the people who tweet at us and let us know that they love it almost immediately after it goes live. So, I'm always impressed, incidentally, by Dan on a Saturday morning within, I would say, I think he's there at 6 a.m. I think he's just right there, ready to listen. It's great. It's like Vesuvius watching The Mandalorian, except he gets to actually make it work first time. Yeah. Which, I'm glad Vesuvius got there in the end. So, patreon.com/talkstarwars, $1, one tier, or whatever you care to donate. We'll always be grateful for it. And you can do that anytime you wish and get ad-free versions of the show that run on a Saturday. Social media-wise, we can be found on Twitter and Instagram at Talk Star Wars. At Emotionally 14, obviously, is also available. We've got a Facebook page for both, so Emotionally 14's Talk Star Wars. There are Facebook groups for various different bits and pieces, so feel free to join one of those. You can find them all connected into the Facebook pages. But speaking of social media, Brad, tell us more about yours.
If you want to find the other Star Wars show I do, then you can find Fire When Ready, Adventures in Star Wars Tabletop Gaming, through emotionally14.com and on Emotionally14's YouTube channel. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Fire When Ready UK. If you want to follow me personally, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RealBradHB. And if you're feeling especially considerate and kind and like giant monsters, then you can buy my books through Audible and Amazon.
Yes, indeed you can. And you can access those on emotionally14.com. Underneath each Talk Star Wars post advertising the latest episode of the show, you can find a link that will take you directly to Amazon, where you can purchase the books of Barrett Harmer Barnes, which is quite handy, isn't it? It's very convenient, I think. So I can be found on Twitter and Instagram at RobWadeVision, and I'm also the person behind the Talk Star Wars and Emotionally 14 Twitter and Instagram accounts. So if you're talking to them, you're talking to me. You can email podcast@emotionally14.com with the subject Talk Star Wars, or just send it to podcast@emotionally14.com, and I'll probably figure it out at the moment. But as I mentioned, I promised it earlier, briefly touch on the Star Wars Commonwealth Network. Oh my. So we have 8 wonderful outlets producing countless reams of wonderful content. In addition to Talk Star Wars, we have Tumbling Saber, who incidentally, I am remiss in not congratulating on last week's episode, because obviously we didn't have one, for their 200th episode. That is quite the milestone, especially if you factor in all the additional shows they've done. Just to get to 200 episodes of the main shows is fantastic stuff. So Kyle and everybody at Tumbling Saber, we salute you. You have done fantastic work. Generation X-Wing, similarly, have passed the 200 mark quite a while ago, admittedly. They've, similarly excellent, and we like them very much. Rob did a great job guesting on the latest Tumbling Saber. I enjoyed that significantly. The Nerd Room, I mentioned, Tim, Troy, and Sanjay do a wonderful job breaking down Marvel, DC, and Star Wars every week. And Tim knocked it out of the park solo hosting this week. I would, if I could only do it as well as he did, then I would be a force of nature. Rogue Squadron podcasts with Cody and Mopar. Commander Cody, I should say. I should use his full title.
Yeah.
Excuse me. If you enjoy beer, video games, Star Wars...
I do.
Yeah. These are all great things to do. So I would definitely check those guys out. The San Diego Sabres radio podcast. We love those guys. They are unique among the network in that they bring something truly, truly wonderful to proceedings. And, we're very happy to have them. Retro Inc. podcast, breaking down the best stuff in pop culture. I mean, you can't really go wrong. And the Sandcrawler cast with Dan and Mike. If you like toys, and boy, do I like hearing about toys. I've downloaded the latest today to get on. So, they're excellent. They do sterling work. And as the newest recruits to the Commonwealth that I recall, then they have been a wonderful addition. We're very happy to have them aboard. So all of those podcasts, all those outlets are available on StarWarsCommonwealth.com, and you can take your first steps into a larger world.
Boom.
Enjoy the rest of your week. We will see you again next week for episode 191 as we count down to our very own 200, which is got to be, 9 weeks away at this point, at least. Probably within 9 to 12 for sure.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, seems reasonable. But thank you very much for listening to Talk Star Wars this week. We will see you next week for episode 191. Until then, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and as always, may the Force be with you.